Corinne Winters toured Europe singing Verdi Requiem with Sir John Eliot Gardiner and the Monteverdi Choir and orchestras. She has sung her signature role of Violetta in opera houses all over the world, and she sings for the first time in the Pearl Fishers here at the Santa Fe Opera this summer. Welcome.
Yes, thank you very much.
As an undergraduate, you studied music generally, but you didn't focus on vocal performance. What led you to be a singer?
Yeah, so voice was my my instrument, I guess, my medium, but it wasn't my focus because I actually wasn't sure I wanted to do this for a living. I wanted to study music because I grew up in singing in choir and just loving music in general, but I also liked psychology, and like a good suburban American girl, I thought maybe I'll do the sort of safe route and get a, quote, real job, and just study music for the love of it, really. So I took psychology classes and music classes. I actually ended up dropping the psychology major and minoring in psychology, but I did continue with the music major. And even though I got the Bachelor of Science degree, which was the general degree, by my last year, I had really decided that I wanted to continue with performance. So I did end up going to graduate school for performance. But I actually think that getting a general music education made me a more rounded artist. Being interested in psychology can only help with characters.
That could only help. Yeah.
And help with the singer life, which we have a joke that all singers need to travel with their vocal coach and their therapist. So having those tools is not harmful in any way. But also just being a more rounded musician and not just being a singer was really helpful because I didn't grow up really playing any instruments. I played basic piano, but I wasn't an instrumentalist, so it was important for me to really get that extra boost of music education.
And as a singer, so much of what you do is listening to the ensemble that you're in the middle of. So
Totally.
The more you know about orchestration, the more you know about structure, it's only got to help.
Absolutely.
This is your first time singing this role.
Yes.
So is this something? How do you come to this role? Is it something you've always had your eye on, or?
I have to be honest, until I got the offer, I really didn't have my eye on Leïla, only because I had bought into the misconceptions about the character. For me, I usually choose roles based on, if something fits my voice well, which this role does, but also the temperament of the character, and if there is sort of a central conflict, because I find that just sort of the pretty ingenue characters don't appeal to me. There has to be something deeper. And with Leïla, I really didn't think she had that depth. I didn't know if she had that depth.
Well, the knock on this piece is that it has a weak libretto, and the two librettists even wrote, apparently, that if they'd known Bizet was such a good composer, they might have given him something better. But you don't think so?
No, I do think it's up to the performers, the individual performers and the director to create something that sort of elevates the basic libretto. But I do think that the general story gives us something to work with. And now knowing that, I would have chosen Leïla long before. But this role kind of fell in my lap for a variety of reasons, and it was the right place at the right time, and I just said yes. And I'm so glad I did. So in our interpretation of Pearl Fishers, Leïla is not only struggling between her faith and her love, which is still a big thing, that's nothing to be diminished, but she's a leader in her community, and she really values that title of, putting the people above herself. But then there's the conflict of she's never really had love before because she's always been religious. She's probably never kissed anyone until, spoiler alert, she kisses Nadir. So, spoiler. But so she's never had that either. And so she really is fighting with this thing she's known her whole life, but also being human and being vulnerable. And those are two big callings to live your truth, as it were, to fall in love, to experience that as a human being, but also to really feel that strong calling to lead and to be a pillar of the community. And both of those things are major, major life lessons that are crossing her path at the same time. And now more than ever, that is so relevant for women. And for leaders in general. I think there's a call for leaders to be more vulnerable than they've ever been, to not just be the dictatorial, staunch leader. We want someone, I think we have a hunger for someone that has a moral compass, and also is a real human being. And she actually leads by example in that way and ends up influencing the men in the story, specifically Zorga, the male leader, to be more vulnerable and to listen to his heart. And I think that's really beautiful that, a woman, especially in that society, in Hindu society, where the woman is, at least the priestess, is sort of held up on high on a pedestal, but isn't really part of the grit of society. And for her to influence the king and to make him soften is really beautiful. And I love playing her in that way.
And at incredible personal sacrifice, because it's death.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think she's still, despite having these charges against her and facing death and having some of the people turning against her, the way we're playing the chorus is that some of them don't turn against her. They actually see that she really is this beacon in the community, and she's kind of just, unfortunately, casualty of the law, and that she's really not a bad person. It's just, if she had been in a different time, things would be completely different, or a different society. But unfortunately, in this society, that was the price to pay.
So, again, relevant to our current society, even the crowd, even the people are conflicted.
Yes. And I love the way that our director, Shauna, is playing that, because in the scene where we're being accused, some of the women are coming toward me, like hate rallying, basically, like, how could you? And some of them seem really sad about the whole thing. And I think that's so important, because, the world doesn't exist in one track or one polarity. It's about the push and pull of all sides that really, heightens this conflict and makes it more real.
Bizet was quite young when he wrote this. He was not even 25 years old.
Yes.
And he had written in other forms, but had really decided that writing for the theater was his métier. Mm-hmm. At that young age, how well does he write for voices?
I think he writes really well. I actually think the role of Leïla, in particular, is paced really well, because it starts with a few entrance lines. They're quite grand, so they allow the voice to speak, but you can kind of test the acoustic a bit and warm up into the voice. Then there's a big aria, but it's quite light. It's almost written out like a vocalese, so it's still a warm up into the piece.
And accompanied by just basically cellos and harp, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's very transparent orchestration, so there's no need to push the voice. We should never push the voice, but especially in this scene, there's no need to give any extra. Just let the voice come out. Then the second act is really just building on that, creating more and more lyricism. And then the third act is where the drama really comes in, the massive face-off with Zorga. And that's a real dramatic scene. I mean, parts of it sound like a Verdi cabaletta, Verdi aria. And I think people don't realize the dynamism in this piece. It's written like Traviata, which I've sung so many times, but the first, second, and third acts are all different, and they build on each other. And that was a pleasant surprise approaching the score.
Well, how great to get to do it for the first time, and how great for us that we get to see you do it for the first time.
Oh, thank you. I can't wait to share it.
Corinne Winters sings the role of Leïla in The Pearl Fishers this summer at the Santa Fe Opera. Thank you so much.
Thank you.